The Enchantress inched towards the low-orbit satellite. The readings were wrong. Material composition, temperature, radiation signature, everything except the location, precisely where it should be. Juliana decided to move into visual range. The computer notified her of an incoming transmission, and she quickly shut it down. No communication with the facility, they said, for security reasons. Juliana programmed the course. Below, sunrise rolled across the tantalizingly close surface of Cerona, illuminating tall banks of frozen crystalline clouds. The computer automatically dimmed the viewports. Finally close enough, Juliana pointed Enchantress's cameras at the satellite. It matched the specs they gave her, long spikes bristling with powerful sensor arrays. The metallic surfaces glittered as if frosted over. A coolant leak? Another burst of data came. She ignored it, complying with their stupid security policy. The readings still showed a single, uniform object. Not a wildly expensive piece of tech. She needed a closer look. Her hand wouldn't move. She looked away from the monitors, startled. There was an icy sheen over the console, the viewport, the blinking, incoming transmission light over her hand. The air solidified into a translucent, crystalline prism just as Juliana opened her mouth to scream. Hello and welcome to The Bad Spot, an actual play podcast where I, Matt Risby, and I alone am playing through Ironsworn Starforged. This week's Tale from the Drift was from Carolina, a long-time supporter of the channel, incredible fantasy mapmaker, and all-round wonderful person. I love this story very much, and if you did too, then you can find links to Carolina's work and her social media down in the description below. And whilst I have you, why don't you leave a like, subscribe, and click that little bell icon so you can follow along with the campaign each and every week. These things are really important for supporting the channel and supporting what I do, and if you really want to support the channel, then why not check out the Bad Spot Patreon. There you'll get early access to all episodes, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, and your name on screen, like these lovely people. Last time out, Archer and Luna hatched a plan to retrieve the Eclipse and Griff from the Pax home city-state space fortress of Narthex Prime. Using the emissary ship that Luna and Cole patched up, they head out on their impossible mission, with a dozen or so mercenaries in tow. As they arrive at Narthex Prime, the sheer scale of the place, and therefore the task at hand, is overwhelming, but they have no time to dwell on that further, as the ship malfunctions, losing all power and drifting away from the intended hangar bay they were being guided into. They are hauled in by a tractor beam, albeit to a smaller hangar bay in a remote part of the complex. As Archer and Luna prepare to disembark, a welcome party of acolytes and vanguard enter the hangar to receive what they think is a returning emissary. Before they can plan any further, Archer suddenly hears many voices crying out for his attention, voices he has heard before. With the sudden realization of what that means, he hands Luna the Eclipse's tracker and sets off on his own, leaving her to spur Cole and the mercenaries into action. Okay, so what are we doing? Shall we start with Archer, seeing as he has just wandered off on his own? I think Archer pulls his hood up, the acolyte's hood that he's wearing, as he steps off the ladder that has dropped down from the emissary's ship down into the hangar. The hangar is functional. There are lots of kind of very practical things knocking about, which makes this ship, which is of some standing and repute, I guess, seem quite at odds with its surroundings. This is not a fitting place for this ship to land. Now, I think we said before that before the welcome party came, there were some acolytes kind of working to get the hangar ready as the ship arrived, and Archer can see them, and they are scrabbling around to receive this ship as it has unexpectedly arrived here. So some of those are just doing practical things, working away at these big, archaic-looking stations, these huge consoles, and they're cranking levers and spinning these crunching dials and flipping big chunky switches. And the welcome party, the aforementioned welcome party that was coming through the doors as Archer said his goodbyes to Luna, well, I think that they're being more ceremonial, right? So the acolytes who are in the hangar already are scrabbling around trying to get ready, and the acolytes and the vanguard that are making up this welcome committee that were marching through the door, like, they are trying to make this place feel like it's a welcoming place, even though it is just a grim, dirty, industrial, remote bit of the station where this ship never had been. They want to try and make it more befitting of this ship's status. Almost like, like the king comes around for a state visit, but he gets let in through the back door of a Starbucks, right? And like all the shit's lying around in the back that only the staff see. It's kind of that vibe. So I think that Archer slinks in behind one of these large consoles, and it's one that's not being used. It's far enough away from the acolytes who are preparing the space. And he tucks himself in behind it and he peeks out. And I think that there is, among the welcome party, there's these vanguards and the acolytes who are kind of marching in kind of columns, as it were. I think that there's also, to give it this sense of pomp and ceremony, there's two acolytes dressed slightly differently. Their robes are a slightly different kind of shade of grey, I guess. And I think that they're carrying these banners, these kind of tall standards. They're kind of standard bearers. And on top of each of those standards, on top of those kind of banner poles, are these braziers, and each brazier is kind of glowing with this pale green flame, and it's a chemical, and you can smell it. Like, Archer's quite far away, and he can kind of feel it at the back of his throat. It kind of just burns, kind of acrid fumes. And Archer's sizing up the situation, and he wants to kind of see if any more people come through the double doors. And the moment that they stop coming through and kind of finish lining up in front of the ship, making this guard of honor to greet the emissary back, I think Archer knows that's his moment, and that is when he picks to go. He guesses he can move fairly quickly between these consoles because they're quite big and will be easy to stay hidden behind. And in the corner of the room where the double doors were, there are a short set of stairs. And if he hurries and if he times it just right, he can probably get up and out of there without being seen. So this is going to be a move. It's definitely a move. And that move is Face Danger. Face Danger says when you attempt something risky or react to an imminent threat, envision your action and roll. And yeah, we're kind of just going for it. But I think that he's not just going to flat out run. I think he has to kind of put his head down and walk at a steady pace, as if anyone just caught him out the corner of their eye, they might think he was just an acolyte leaving for reasons or whatever. It wouldn't look suspicious. So I think this is going to be with deception, stealth, or trickery. So we are going to Face Danger, rolling, plus shadow. Wow. Okay, most dangerous thing we've ever done, and most kind of dangerous situation we've ever been in, I think. And we whiffed the first roll. So I will be burning the maximum momentum that we have accrued over the last couple of episodes here to get rid of this miss with a match. Because the good thing about burning momentum on a miss with a match is that the match obviously carries over. So a miss with a match becomes a strong hit with a match. So yes, that's good. So on a strong hit, you are successful. Take +1 momentum. So we are back up to 3, which is, it is what it is. It's worse than 10, I'll tell you that much, but it's better than 2. So let's envision this. So he waits and he waits. And he wants to be 100% sure no one else is coming through the doors. And he waits until the welcome party is stood in their guard of honor. And the landing platform of the emissary's craft begins to noisily lower. And there's steam billowing out of these vents as the hydraulics do their thing. And Archer uses that moment, that anticipatory moment that the welcome party are there for. He uses that moment to make his move, and he swiftly makes his way towards the doors, arms folded in front of him, hand gripping the pistol beneath his robes. But he has paid no mind. And if anyone even saw him, they probably wouldn't have thought anything of it. Just another acolyte working hard to receive the emissary. These people doing that work are busy, and it's clearly someone they don't want to let down. So they are totally focused on their task and not on Archer. But he is on his way out of the hangar, moving past these huge consoles, and up the stairs. But here's a question. What do I do with the match? Because we got a strong hit with the match, right? And I'm wondering whether Archer might use this opportunity to assist Luna in some way. Like, is there something he can do that might help them out or buy them some time or just any kind of advantage? And I don't think mechanically he can do that, but I think narratively he can definitely do that. I think if he's on his way out, maybe he passes like the alarm button or something, or what looks like the alarm system, and he can do something to it, like disable it. And I think I'm going to say that's what he's going to do, because this place is kind of old. This is not where they need to be. This is probably just disused. This is not a hangar that is ever used. He's decommissioned. So the stuff in here is probably old and broken. And on his way out, he sees there is some kind of paneling loose beneath where the alarm button is. And I think that on his way out, he quickly checks behind him, reaches inside the paneling and just yanks out a handful of kind of knotted wires. And I'm going to say that will mean that the acolytes won't be able to raise the alarm from this room. And that might give Luna and co a fighting chance. With that, Archer takes one last look back at the ship as the welcome party await their emissary. He pushes open the door and leaves. Luna steels herself. She has nothing else to do to quieten the doubt in her mind. She's not a leader. She can't tell people what to do. She can look after herself, but why did Archer leave her in charge of anyone? Well, Cole is a leader. She isn't. But Cole is now looking to her. The mercenaries are professional soldiers, and she isn't. But they are awaiting her orders. And she knows they can sense her apprehension as hard as she might try and hide it. She has little choice but to make a decision. She checks her rifle, and in a way that centers her. She can trust her rifle. She doesn't really trust anyone other than herself. It's taken her a long time to get close to trusting Archer, and he just split. But she can do this. Can she convince the others to follow her? I guess there's only one way to find out. She primes her rifle and stashes it beneath her robes, takes a deep breath and says, "Follow my lead. Try not to get killed." She nods to one of the mercenaries to lower the landing ramp and pulls up her hood. Everyone else does likewise, weapons primed and ready. The ramp is now down, the steam from the hydraulics swirling everywhere. Luna starts down the ramp, leading them out. Her head is bowed, but her eyes flick from side to side. She's counting the feet as she leads everyone down the Guard of Honor. She counts 22 acolytes and 2 vanguard. There are 14 of them. This could work. She leads them to the end of the line, and they all file behind her, Cole just at her shoulder. She motions for him to peel off to the left, and she peels off to the right, leading all of the mercenaries to the end of the line. Now they have the welcome party standing between them and the ship, expectantly awaiting the emissary. But Luna can tell they know something is wrong. She can sense the jig might be up. This near imperceptible change in body language you come to recognise as a streetwise scrapper, a survival instinct almost. And she knows that the time is now. Any longer and they will lose this slender advantage. She asked the mercenaries to follow her lead, so she better do something. And that something is to pull out her rifle and start shooting. Archer is moving swiftly down a long corridor. And it isn't a cramped, grimy industrial corridor that you would expect to find on a ship or a normal space station. The ceilings of this place are really high, and the doorways are shaped into these narrow arches. And the floors are this dull marble, and there's elaborate bronze decorative metalwork running around every feature. The only really functional thing that Archer can see are these huge, wide pipes, this ducting that is running above him. And each one is kind of as wide as 2 people laid side by side, and they disappear off into the walls and then reappear further along. And he's totally alone. There's no one down here. This is a remote part of the station. If I haven't made that clear enough, that's the kind of place this is. How long it will stay that way, who knows? But he needs to orient himself quickly. And he stops at a junction. And there's nothing obvious or even unique marking the way. So he has no idea where to go. And the only bit of information he's got to go on are the voices in his head. So once again, he reaches up into his robes and touches the black iron compass. And he hears, "Find us, find us, find us, find us." And it's overwhelming, and it just grows in intensity, and he's kind of hoping it might guide him one way or another. It's the only sense of a vague direction he can follow, and I think he's going to follow it. So I think that the best way that we're going to do this is we are going to do a good old-fashioned delve. Now, delves aren't something that are named as such in the Starforged Rulebook, and I have been guilty before in the past of confusing people by calling expeditions delves. But I'm sorry, that's a hangover, because the supplement that gave you these tools for the original Ironsworn was called Delve. And it was this kind of toolkit to do these themed explorations of locations, and a lot of the mechanics that were in that supplement have now been baked into the Starforged rules in the form of the move undertaken expedition, but also the themed location oracles, which we're going to use. Okay, so let's have a look at the move undertaken expedition. It says, when you trailblaze a route through perilous space, journey over hazardous terrain, or survey a mysterious site, give the expedition a name and rank. This is definitely a mysterious site, and we have no idea where we're going. So the expedition is going to be called Explore Narthex Prime and Find the Mystics. And if you haven't realised that's who Archer is hearing in his head, then now you do. That's a callback to season 2, I think, and we've been kind of leading there this whole time. There have been breadcrumbs left. If you didn't realise, then I apologise. My storytelling not very obvious. So how difficult is this going to be? I'm going to say dangerous, and in reality of the fiction, if that's a thing, the reality of the fiction, this is really hard. But in terms of how long we want this to take in game, then I think dangerous is about right. So we're going to do a dangerous expedition, and we'll use the themed location oracles for this, specifically the fortified oracle. So let's set off. We've got only the voices in Archer's head to guide us, and I think at this point he's still wanting to move fairly surreptitiously. So let's undertake a journey rolling plus shadow. It's a weak hit. So we reach a waypoint, envision the location, and mark progress per the rank of the expedition. But on a weak hit, this progress cost us. So we choose one. We can either make a suffer move at -2 or 2 separate suffer moves at -1, or we can face a peril at the waypoint, envision what you encounter. So first of all, let's mark the progress. We'll take 2 progress. That is what you do for a dangerous expedition, 2 boxes. Now, in terms of the suffer moves, our tracks are a shit show right now, so I think it's just going to have to be facing a peril. So let's turn to the Fortified Oracle and see what we roll up. 35 is enemies converge on this area. Converge, you say? It's not just running into enemies or enemies on patrol. Enemies converge on this area. They're here to do something or for some reason in this particular area. Looking at the list of features, which is another table to roll on that Fortified Oracle, there is an option that says enemy forces off duty or at leisure. And that gives me an idea. So these corridors are super long and guided by these voices and that vague sense of direction, which is just a sense. He is just moving and feeling his way. He has had options to turn off, and he passed a few junctions, but that sense that he's following tells him to go in a certain direction, and he just can't ignore that. It's all he has. And he's moving in this way for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and he's carefully checking for anyone as he does, and peering out behind corners as he rounds them, and he's working his way down one of these long corridors, and he looks up, and he sees a pair of acolytes come around the corner up ahead. They have their arms folded, their heads are uncovered, but they are still bowed, and they are moving towards him. They are some way off, but they are coming, and there's no turnings between them, so he is going to have to pass them. He can feel his heart start to quicken. As he moves down the corridor, he can't pause, he can't hesitate, because he knows then they will clock him. But in a matter of moments, he will have his progress checked, one way or another. So Luna. She's firing her rifle, and this is going to be a move. And I'm not going to have a full-blown combat here because I want this resolved quickly, as do the characters involved. And as one of those characters involved is Luna, who knows how this is going to pan out. So there's rules for this in Starforged. If you don't want to do a full-blown combat with a track and the rest of it, then Starforged has you covered. There is a move called Battle, which says when you fight a battle and it happens in a blur, envision your objective and roll. And then it gives you many options. So looking at it, the objective is to take out the welcome party. But in a bigger sense, it's to do so without raising the alarm. Archer has disabled one local alarm, but the emissary is important, and the Pact will notice something is up before too long. So that's the objective. Take out the welcome party as quickly and quietly as possible. And Luna is doing that by just opening fire and hoping everyone else does too. So let's have a look at the move and see how we're going to do this. And I've been staring at this move for like 5 minutes because you could genuinely pick any of these. You could make the case for all 5 of those things to roll against. And I'd say in this particular instance, we're probably not using careful tactics, so we can chuck out wits. And even though this is up close and personal, we are using ranged weapons, so technically we can rule out iron. We are employing a certain amount of, shall we say, subterfuge, but we are now just shooting them in the back. So I'm going to take Shadow off the list now. So that leaves us with 2 options. And I think I'm going to say that we are fighting depending on our courage, leadership, or companions. In our case, all 3. And I think that's really appropriate given the little character beat we had with Luna back on the ship. She's leading by example. She's encouraging others to follow that lead, which is a polite way to put pulling out a high-powered rifle and shooting people in the back. But there you go. Anyway, we are going to use heart here. Thank you for allowing me to talk you through my process and show my working. So let's make the move. We are going to battle rolling plus heart. Now, without rolling 2 1s, I don't think it's possible to roll a lower strong hit than that. That's impressive, I think. So a strong hit. It says, you achieve your objective unconditionally. You and any allies who joined the battle may take +2 momentum. So Luna hops straight up to 9 momentum, which, yeah, I feel like she's going to need. Okay, so let's envision it. She flings back her robe, takes out her rifle, and just squeezes the trigger. She's shooting from the hip, and she is spraying fire into the lines of acolytes. And the mercenaries don't waste a beat joining in. They're ready to rock and roll. But unlike Luna, they are getting into cover, like dropping into a kneel to steady themselves, taking up good firing positions, choosing their targets, short bursts of fire, whereas Luna is just going for it. And the acolytes are just dropping one by one by one, and they don't even have a chance to get whatever weapons they're carrying out, let alone fire back. And all the acolytes who were working on the consoles, they just flee instantly, and they're trying to make up the stairs towards the door, and where they think the alarm is, but Archer has deactivated it, but they don't know that. They don't make it more than a few meters before the mercenaries just cut them down. This is fast, it's loud, it's bloody, it is ruthless. But those 2 Vanguard are still standing. And the Vanguard are these mighty warriors that seem to tower over everyone with their bronze armor and these huge pikes, and they come marching forwards. And the small arms fire from the mercenaries is just glancing off these ornate plates of armor. But with no acolytes left standing, the mercenaries can change tack. They can move to heavier weaponry. And one of the mercenaries has kind of got this underbarrel launcher on their rifle and just fires this concussive blast. And it sends both Vanguard flying, armor plates ripped off unceremoniously, and they are sent sprawling. And as they do, other mercenaries move in to finish the job. And with that, there's this moment of total silence. Luna looks around as all of the mercenaries that she counted off the ship come out of cover. Everyone is still standing. It worked. However, she's not dumb enough to think that they're going to be able to leverage such a good position in the future. Here, they had the element of surprise in their favour, and they executed the plan as it was, with aplomb. But Luna is still filled with a momentary confidence and gives an order. She says, "Load the bodies back into the ship. Rig it to blow." And the mercs set about that quickly and efficiently. Cole joins Luna. She's reloading. She says, "You okay?" And he says, "Didn't fire a shot. What next?" Luna tosses him the device receiving the tracking signal from the Eclipse and says, "Lead the way." And I think overcoming this obstacle of the welcome party counts as reaching a milestone. So let's mark progress on bringing down the Pact. Now Archer is slowly approaching the acolytes up ahead. There are 4 of them. Did I say there were 4? Did I say even how many there were? I can't remember, but there's 4 now. However many there were before, there are 4 now. And they approach silently. They're focused on whatever they're doing or wherever they're going. Now, we need to get past them one way or another. Archer would rather not fight them. That would be crazy. But he also doesn't know enough about the Pact to know if he's acting weird or in a way that will make him stand out or look suspicious. So I think he's just going to have to keep moving and try as best as he can to blend in and just get past them. That's all he can do. And they are approaching each other. It's a long, straight corridor. Any pause or hesitation is just you may as well just pull out a red flag and say, I'm Archer Barlow, come and get me. So I think this will be another move, and it is once again going to be face danger. And I think that it's going to be something that calls on Archer's composure, like his ability to play it cool. So I think that's resolve. So I think this is going to be face danger, rolling, plus heart. So on a weak hit you succeed, but not without cost. Make a suffer move -1. Okay, so it works. And Archer is able to blend in sufficiently that they don't notice him or pull him up with and question him or anything. So that's good. But what suffer move do we take here? Like a hit to the health or spirit or supply, they don't really make any sense. But this idea I've had based on those oracle rolls, because we are technically at a waypoint, which we need to envision, about that oracle result with the enemies being at leisure or what did it say, off duty. That kind of, I think, might feed into this. So Archer is approaching, and the acolytes are maybe just 10 meters away. They're real close, and he doesn't dare look up to see if they've noticed him. Everyone here dresses the same and seems to behave in the same deferential manner. So blending in is not actually that hard, but he's not able to actually pass them when he reaches them because they stop him. They block his way, more specifically, and his heart sinks. He thinks that he's been rumbled, but when he looks up, they are kind of motioning for him to go through a small doorway that he'd not noticed that's just to the right, but not like they're ordering him. It's almost as if they're expecting him to go through that door. And one of them enters ahead of him, and Archer just doesn't want to hesitate, so Joe just follows straight behind. And he finds himself in a fairly large round room. And it's big enough for about 50 people to stand shoulder to shoulder. And he knows that because there are about 50 people, all acolytes, standing shoulder to shoulder. And they are silently swaying, going through the motions of a ritual. And because there are already people leaving as they arrive and more kind of coming in intermittently, it has this feeling of like this hourly thing that's supposed to be done, that everyone is just kind of coming into this room to perform this prayer or ritual or whatever it is. There are these strange icons on the wall that reinforces that, and these icons are just symbols. They're not figures or anything. It's nothing Archer recognizes. And everyone in the room seems to go through the same series of motions and touching various parts of their bodies, and Archer plays along and copying them. And most of the acolytes have got their eyes closed, or they're so super into it that they just don't notice what he's doing or like he's even there. And after a few minutes of this, groups and individuals start to kind of drift off and leave as if they've performed their kind of hourly faith-based obligation. And I'm going to say that it's easy enough, I think, for Archer to leave without being noticed. But what I am going to say is that this was a significant enough delay or diversion from Archer's mission. The suffer move that we make can be a hit to our momentum. So back down to 2. That makes a lot of sense. So Archer's now able to slip out of the room. But I'm going to say that he leaves through another door because he's noticed these other doors leading off of this congregation space that the acolytes are using. And there's lots of options, but he figures he knows where the other one is kind of going. So he just takes a chance and goes through another door rather than the original one. And he finds himself in a slightly different environment because unlike the long featureless corridors that are out through the original entrance, I think he finds himself in an area that feels very different. There are still corridors, but they are opening into much more frequent, wider spaces, and those spaces have rooms kind of shooting off them. And now I think Archer's got more options to explore, and we're going to use that opportunity to we're going to see what is around in this area. So the move Explorer Waypoint says, when you divert from an expedition to examine a notable location, roll plus wits. We need to find some kind of way of figuring out where we are because we're a bit lost. And we could do with at least like a schematic or a map or something. Anything will help us. So let's explore a waypoint, rolling, plus wits. Hey, that's a strong hit. Okay, on a strong hit, choose 1. And we didn't roll a match, so we can ignore the discovery. So our options are find an opportunity, which is envision a favourable insight, situation, resource, or encounter, then take +2 momentum. Or we can take the progress. I think we've got to do the first one, because we took a hit to our momentum, didn't we? And we could do with finding something meaningful. And I actually think, whilst I was making that move, if I recall from last episode, Archer discovered a basic schematic of Narthex Prime on the emissary ship, I think. And I said that, it didn't give him much info beyond a few basic things. And one of those basic things was that there was a transit system, like an internal transit system for people to use to get across this vast station. And I think we've found that. And there must be a map with that. I think that's a given. That's not to say Archer will understand it if he finds it or even be able to use it, but that's what he's going to find. But we'll take that momentum first. So we are now up to 5, which is better given where we were a few minutes ago. So I think Archer follows some of the other acolytes out of this prayer space and into this new area, and he finds himself waiting with some others as they come to a stop outside a large set of sliding doors. And the doors are ornate, even though they are just like elevator doors. They are kind of beautifully detailed, inlaid with this bronzing between the rivets and the metal panels. And Archer doesn't want to stand out, so he just waits with the people who stopped in front of him. And after a moment or two, there's more people filing in behind him. And then there's this loud squealing noise on the other side of the doors and the sound of something kind of big and metallic grinding to a halt. And the doors slide open with a hiss. And inside there are dozens and dozens of acolytes. They are just jammed in there. And there's a few of the ones who are standing in front of Archer. They managed to squeeze in, but then there's no room for anyone else. The door's closed and the squealing noise and the mechanical grinding starts up again. And Archer is at the front of the queue as they wait for the next one. And behind him, more acolytes join the line. So I think that finding this transit system is definitely a resource, so we can reach a milestone on our vow. So up to 3 now on to Bring Down the Pact, because I think we're going to be able to use that resource. And I actually think that finding this transit system and being able to use it, I think I'm going to use it in game to give Archer a bit of a helping hand here, because I think that this is going to allow him to move around much more quickly. He will at some point discover a map of where he's going, because transit systems have them. And I think I'm going to reflect that by decreasing the rank of the expedition. And I'm thinking that we can bump this down to a troublesome rank. So that's what I'm going to do. And there's after a few more moments, he's kind of been stood there in total silence. He's interrupted by the familiar squealing and grinding sound. And the doors open to reveal another incredibly full carriage. And Archer has no choice but to squeeze in. He's kind of wedged uncomfortably close with all these other acolytes, and he can barely breathe. The doors slide closed, and the carriage begins to shudder and shake, and Archer moves deeper and deeper into Narthex Prime. Now, Luna and Cole have slightly more to go on. They, at the very least, have a tracking device that tells them where the eclipse is, rather than just following a vague voice in their heads. And I think Cole is going to try and find out more using that. So I think he heads over to one of those big consoles in the hangar, and yes, they are antiquated and old and mysterious, but I think he's got just enough time to figure out how to use one of them, because he did pilot the MS3 ship using that old technology, and he figured that out. And I think that he's kind of moving between these consoles, trying to find one that might tap into some central interface. And Luna's getting impatient. She realizes how important this is, but the bodies of the welcome party are in the MS3 ship, which is primed to blow with explosives, and they cannot hang around. They have to get moving. So I think the information that they and I want to know is how far away the eclipse is from where they are. Now, as a result of the miss we rolled last episode repairing the MS3 ship, we used that to land further away than we needed to be, and that established that we were a bit further away from the eclipse. But how far? And the reason I'm trying to figure that out is I'm trying to figure out how mechanically to get Luna and Cole to the eclipse, because I think it will be quite boring if I'm just narrating lots and lots of face danger and secure and advantage rolls as they follow a beeping tracker. And we could undertake an expedition, but frankly we're already doing that with Archer, and I'm too stupid to run two at once and keep track of them. I'm already struggling with one. So I think I'm gonna abstract it slightly and make the move set a course. Set a course says, when you follow a known route through perilous space, across hazardous terrain, or within a mysterious site, roll plus supply. Because this is a mysterious site, and I would say that following the tracker is technically following a known route. So our supply is 5, and that's what we're rolling against. So, I've got everything crossed for this. Okay, let's set a course. Rolling plus supply. Jesus, even with a +5, we only managed a weak hit, and the 10 means our momentum is good for nothing. Okay, what does it say? It says, on a weak hit, you arrive but face a cost or complication and choose one. We've seen this sort of thing before. You can suffer costs and a -2 move or 2 -1s. Or you can face a complication and envision what you encounter. Okay, well, let's get the good bit out of the way first. We've arrived where we need to be. We found the location of the eclipse, so that's progress against our vow. That's the silver lining. So we're up to 4 on Bring Down the Pact. But as to my choices that I have to make because of the weak hit, I'm not sure I'm a fan of the suffer moves, because there isn't anything that makes sense without having to kind of backfill it with saying, oh, on the way we lost some supplies, or some people got shot or whatever, or it was dispiriting. That's not really what we're doing here. So I think it's going to have to be a good old-fashioned complication, and we'll roll that up and see how we can fold that into what we envision when we arrive. Okay, so let's go once again back to the fortified location oracle. 62 is powerful enemy appears. That's great. Yeah, love that. Fantastic. And I think we can flesh it out a bit. There's a features oracle in the same fortified location thing. Yeah. So there's one that I saw it earlier. It's what jumps out at me. It says robotic assistant or watchful AI. I think that makes it slightly more interesting. I think I've got an idea for that. So what is already difficult has just got real spicy. So let's envision this. And the journey to this point, right? This is the least interesting part. It was a lot of moving through hangar bays that are identical, because of this part of Narthex Prime, at least, this is the service area, the hangar bay area. There's obviously this repeated around the station, and they've moved quickly from section to section. A lot of this is abandoned. There's no resistance they run into, although I think they certainly see patrols of vanguards and occasional acolytes and support staff kind of working. But other than that, there's minimal activity, and they are actually able to move through this area quite easily and quite quickly. They've covered quite a distance. Like, to be clear, they've been moving constantly for about 20 minutes, half an hour. So, they've covered a few clicks in terms of distance. And what that lack of activity or lack of signs of anything tells us is that the Pact still do not know about the emissary ship. They currently have no reason not to trust that the Welcome Party did not do their thing, and they are not currently escorting the emissary back to wherever he needs to be to report on his visit to Lastport. Now, we know that's not the case, but the Pact don't. Yet. So they've been moving, with Cole and Luna leading the way with the scanner, and the mercenaries alert to any threats. And they reach their destination. And it's unguarded from the outside. Why would it be? The Pact are all powerful. No one is just waltzing aboard this ship and poking around. That is absurd. Like, who would even imagine that would be a thing? And Cole shows the scanner to everyone, revealing that the Eclipse is in what they assume to be a hangar, which is on the other side of a service hatch. They have no choice but to spin the wheel of the hatch and enter. Archer is still jammed into this carriage, and I am telling you now how hard it has been not to say that he is packed in, knowing that he is surrounded by members of the Pact. And I just want you to all know the sheer level of restraint that it took to not make that joke. And, you know, I hope you appreciate my sacrifice. But yeah, we're moving further into Narthex Prime, so let's undertake the next stage of our expedition. And as for the approach, like, I think because we're on a transit system and it's quicker, I think it's moving at speed. So let's undertake an expedition, rolling plus edge. That is a strong hit. On a strong hit, you reach a waypoint, envision the location, and mark progress per the rank of the expedition, which we have now bumped down to troublesome, so we are up to 5 out of 10. The carriage has made a few stops en route, and acolytes have got on, and acolytes have got off. And every time the doors open, Archer tries to steal a glance and maybe see something helpful or meaningful outside. And yeah, he's not seen anything so far, and he's been in this carriage for about 3 or 4 minutes. But that is until they reach a stop. And as the doors open, he sees different people walking past. He's not just acolytes. This is the first time he sees anyone not robed, walking around with their arms folded. It's just marginally different, but it's different enough to make him think that there is something else happening here, because moving past the doors at this stop, there are people like walking shoulder to shoulder, 2 by 2, and they are dressed in a very simple grey outfit, not robes, just kind of a trouser and shirt, and they are wheeling trolleys, and the trolleys look like they are packed with technical equipment. And he just instantly steps out of the carriage and falls in line, like as these people are walking down these corridors between these pairs of people. And the corridors are different. These are tighter, kind of more cramped, more industrial looking corridors, like more what you'd be used to seeing on a regular ship or station. And Archer figures that from the way these people are dressed, that they are service or support staff, and the trolleys of equipment and the change of environment reinforce that. And after watching these support staff move around, he notices that they use their own transit system. There are smaller carriages moving in all directions. Now, there are still acolytes moving around, so he's not out of place. And he's kind of wondering, and I think his suspicions are that if he's in an area that's more kind of, you know, behind the scenes, a bit more technical, that it's going to be much easier to find at least like some blueprints or some maps or something, some technical diagrams that say where he is or where he might be able to go, because he's in desperate need to figure that out. He has been essentially stumbling around in the dark. So let's do that. Let's figure this out, and let's make the move explore a waypoint, which says when you divert from an expedition to examine a notable location, roll plus wits. On a miss, you encounter an immediate hardship or threat and must pay the price. Luna leads the way into the hangar, and Cole and the mercenaries follow her out onto what is a suspended catwalk that overlooks what is a pretty big room. The Eclipse is in the centre of the hangar down below, and they're maybe 3 or 4 stories high looking down. There's equipment dotted around the hangar, the big ancient consoles like we saw before. But yeah, some of them have elaborate, almost steampunk vents and pipework jutting out of them. What they do, who knows? But there's acolytes and support staff in their grey clothing working away at them. Luna can see acolytes moving up and down the Eclipse's landing ramp, and parts of the insides have been stripped out and disassembled. They are deconstructing the ship, searching for whatever information they need by systematically taking it apart. Not only is Luna going to have to take back the ship, she's probably going to have to oversee putting it back together before they can leave. But the good news is they can easily take out the forces down there. I mean, they took down 2 Vanguard and 5 times this many Acolytes when they arrived. Filled with confidence that they have a chance of getting out of this, Luna motions for Cole to join her so they can formulate a plan of attack. But as they are doing so, before Luna can even begin to lay it all out, there is an ear-splitting noise. A shrill, deafening siren that pierces the silence, and Cole cups his hand to his ears. They look down into the hangar and it is abuzz with activity. The Acolytes are scrambling to look at one console in particular. Luna readies her rifle before she sees something that causes her to do a double take. The console the Acolytes are gathering around begins to move. A jet of hydraulic steam shoots out of the underside and it rises off the ground. It's domed and about 4 meters high and half as wide. It rocks to the left and right as 4 jointed metallic legs emerge from underneath and the console takes form. A giant metallic crab-like robot sentry, a bright green eye on the rotating dome now searching the area. Whilst that is an alarming sight, it's probably not quite as bad as the other pair of jets of hydraulic steam shooting off as 2 more sentries are activated. Cole looks to Luna and says, "Well, I suppose they know we're here." Luna can't help but laugh. Archer has found what he's needed this whole time. He has found a map, or something that could pass for a map. It's actually just the layout of the area that he's in, and it is on the wall, etched in this strange greenish grey marble. It's not interactive in any way, and nothing is labelled except for a few symbols here and there that Archer can't make sense of. But he can at least see levels and large areas laid out, and what he can assume is the transit network bisecting it all. And he doesn't really know how to interpret any of this. It's information, but not information he can use or make sense of. And he is starting to feel hopelessly lost and finds himself falling back to the only thing that has guided him here. He reaches for the black iron compass, but he feels and hears nothing. Total silence. Has he been led astray by voices in his head? Has he abandoned Luna and Cole in the most dangerous place imaginable? As the doubts swirl around his head, he gets his answer pretty definitively. Find us. Find us. Find us. The voices hit him so hard, he is almost knocked off his feet. He clenches his eyes shut to try and hang on for as long as possible, trying to allow them inside to show him the way. But they are suddenly silenced by a loud crack. He opens his eyes to see the greenish-grey marble splintering in front of him. The epicenter of the cracks that are now spidering outward is a large, unmarked room, 2 floors directly below him. There. That's where they are. Relieved, he lets go of the compass and turns back towards the transit network. But he's not alone. There are 2 acolytes stood in front of him. His hood is down, and they see the black iron compass hanging around his neck and react as if they were vampires recoiling from the sight of a crucifix. They look at the cracked marble behind Archer, and a look of horror crosses their faces as they draw their weapons. They start screaming at him, but he can't hear what they're saying, because all he and anyone can hear in this place is a shrill, deafening siren. Thank you a million times. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe if you have not done so already, and click the little bell icon so you can be notified as soon as the next episode drops. And please do check out the Bad Spot Patreon. I'll be back next time, but until then, it's farewell and safe passage.